Welcome back to Softcore History. I'm your host for the week, Dan Regester, joined as always by Rob Fox.
Hello.
And special guest, returning guest, Jack Mandaville.
I think I'm like a fourth time. I'm about to hit the fifth timer here if you guys invite me
You're
back.
going to be a five-timer club pretty soon.
Yeah, what are the benefits of that? Like SNL, they have like their own club. Like, what are my benefits if I hit 5?
We should get him some sort of historical artifact.
We just get you a jacket.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to go online and try to find you like a holy relic that was cheap. Like a really lesser saint's bone I could get for like $20.
Coop introduced me to that website where you can buy like Roman coins and stuff like that for relatively cheap.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a flooded market. People don't realize.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were around for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of coins.
Yeah.
They found Roman coins in like China and India and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, they made their way around a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by suit jacket, I mean chainmail.
That would be even better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can wear it on the show, right?
Yeah, you have to. And you go to war for us as well. Whenever we call our banners, you have to answer.
Oh, okay. What are the VA benefits for that?
They're not great. It's more of a feudal system.
About the same as your current VA benefits, I would say.
Oh, all right. Pay some bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, not home stuff. I'm just saying, like, we'll throw some pills at you and tell you to get out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm at that age now where I'll just take a pill over cocaine. That's for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
We're also not even including the episode you produced.
Which one is that?
We never won Real News with producer Jack Mandaville.
You were just at the studio. You were sleeping.
That's right.
And you were just like, I guess I'll run the boards, boys.
Yeah. I did all the camera
chiming in.
angles.
It was great.
Yeah. I've been cast and crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Building up those IMDb credits.
We need to get you on
We got to do something special.
a game show. We need to have a throwdown.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, we got to get you in some. We're doing sketches now on the Patreon, too.
I know. I
audio
heard that.
sketches. So.
Yeah. Can I tell you? It's my your guys' show is my favorite history show. I have my routine. I wake up at 6. I get to work pretty fast, and that way I can cut out to the pool around 2 or 3, and I pop on Softcore History and I get educated.
I know. We were saying you look tan.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time
Most
at the pool
days
this
in the
summer.
pool. I think, isn't it your second favorite history show now?
Who's number 1? Oh, well,
You.
Okay, yeah.
Because you have your own history show coming
It's not
out.
a podcast though. It's just me reciting a bunch of caca. But yes.
As well. That sounds like a podcast to me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If we could do this in 15 minutes, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not out yet, but it's on YouTube, right?
It's we have 4 episodes in the can. We will be releasing in late September-ish. I just got to get some logistical stuff taken care of, and
Where's that going?
it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be under Jacked History, Jacked History.
Boom.
Jacked
Jacked
history.
History. Yeah.
Bang.
You can interpret it a couple different ways, like jacked as like extreme, or jacked as in like it's all messed
Fucked up. Yeah. Both.
Which
Yeah.
I'd say I'd fall more into the latter.
History's fucked upness is in fact jacked.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's strong.
History
it's a
is
strong fucked upness. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I'm not trying to change the world by this. I just want to give people something that they can tell their buddies at the bar.
Yes.
So I did one one of the ones I did was on why I think Christopher Columbus Day is the dumbest of all the federal holidays.
Okay.
And it's not even because of the indigenous argument, which that's a fair argument, but it's the fact that we know for a fact
He didn't get here first.
he was second place by 500 years.
Technically,
he was way second place.
Technically third, potentially.
The 2 Norsemen that we give credit to, Eric the Red and Leif Erikson.
Yeah.
There was another Norseman that was like 50 years ahead of them.
I'm not even talking about that. It's pretty much beyond a reasonable doubt now that Polynesians hit South America.
Oh, the Kon-Tiki thing. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah. Now they, I guess you could say, didn't maybe know what they found, and I think
Neither did Columbus.
neither did Columbus. The Vikings had probably a better idea. Oh, actually, I'll put it this way, because the Polynesians didn't stay, right? The Vikings set up a settlement for a little while.
They were there for almost 500 years.
Yeah. So they, I guess, could get more credit in terms of like settling.
Yeah.
And technically, I guess the Polynesians would be the 4th because there is really no such thing as a Native American since nobody's from the Americas.
They crossed that land bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to just be owned by the deer.
It did. And actually, we did one of my favorite episodes we ever did that was mine was I just did a whole history on everything the Native Americans wiped out when they got here, because the fauna that was in the Americas prior to human arrival, it was a nightmare land.
Everything was a giant.
Good for dinosaurs, not good for people.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like sloths, like bigger than Shaq.
Which would have been good for people because that's just a lot of meat.
Yeah, they did. They hunted them into extinction. There was like the American lion was like a super lion. There was a grizzly bear or some type of bear that was like 3x the size.
I think we stop there with the American lion.
Okay.
Because that's a great transition for today's topic. We're talking about an American lion.
An American lion?
Half American.
Half American
Okay.
lion, yeah.
Okay.
Winston Churchill. You know this?
You
Hear about this?
Hear about this guy?
You know he was American? Or half American? His mom was American.
Okay.
A lot of big names out there. People don't realize they have American moms. The king of Jordan got an American mom, or no, British. No, he's got an American wife. I don't know.
The guy that runs Jordan currently is half English.
Yes.
We're penetrating monarchies all over the world. I mean, Grace Kelly,
Oh yeah.
right? Monaco.
That's every actress's dream. Is,
Obviously, Meghan Markle is fucking up the royal family.
Yeah.
And
she's doing what our founding fathers couldn't do.
why aren't there any conspiracy theories about that? About Americans destroying monarchies across the globe out of some like fucked up. I mean, if we're in Jordan, we're getting into the British royal family, Monaco back in the day. We're getting into what was another one? I can't remember now. But several Americans have ruined British nobility.
Oh, Wallace Simpson with King Edward.
Yeah.
Yeah. She almost brought that monarchy to its knees just by being an American chick that was divorced.
Just by bringing herself to
Having that good stuff. Can I say the P word on the show?
Pussy?
She had a good pussy.
Yeah.
Good American pussy.
That goes both ways, right? You think an English accent's hot, they think an American accent's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Texans. Like, they don't really like a New York accent.
Well, why would you? That's
or a
like,
Boston accent's gross.
That's like me saying a British accent's hot and then someone coming over and be like, "Hey, God, not like that's not going to turn you on.
They want you to come over and sound like a cowboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, reckon I'll have an ale.
Yeah, you don't hear about Minnesotans getting hitched up by
Gee whiz.
Yeah. Oh, by golly, this is a nice museum you guys got over here.
So Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born in Oxfordshire to his aristocratic families in his palace, November 30th, 1874. He was the son of British Parliament member Lord Randolph Churchill and an American socialite, Jenny Jerome.
Uh-oh.
Let me guess. Some her dad was some sort of like printing magnate or something like that.
Yeah, he was a businessman,
Okay, yeah.
whatever that means.
In that time, what year was he born?
1874.
Okay, so that's a little bit almost like early or pre-Gilded Age. So you're coming out of the Civil War.
Railroads.
Yeah, it's railroad time. It's not really
Oil.
like Rockefeller time yet, right?
In 1876, Winston's grandfather, John Spencer Churchill, became Viceroy of Ireland, and the family moved to Dublin, where his brother Jack was born in 1880. His parents didn't have the best marriage, and it is believed that his mother had several affairs with Milan I of Serbia, Prince Karl Kinski,
She had a type.
and Herbert von Bismarck.
Oh, she made her way around Europe.
Mm-hmm. She was a good time. She was a great conversationalist, very witty.
She sounds actually like a chick, because she is a socialite. She sounds like a chick at like a Vegas club that's like, "What do you do?" Like and if you're like, "Yeah, I'm a music producer for Kanye West," like, fucked, no problem. Like, you're getting laid. But if it's just like, "Oh, I got a podcast. I work in media. I got a podcast," it's just turn back turns to you. Not a fucking word. You're not a human being.
Why are you in the same room if you're a podcaster?
Right. Exactly.
You have no business being there.
In Vegas isn't that. It's expensive, but I wouldn't call it classy.
I guess I wasn't thinking Vegas. I was thinking more
I'm
New
just
York.
Relating a time that happened to me. Where someone was like, "What do you do?" It was at some club in Vegas. Like, "What do you do?"
Was she like a bottle service girl?
No, she's just there. We were in the same, like.
Yeah, she was off, though. She's still a bottle service girl.
You should have just done what every bro does in Vegas, just lie.
I should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I write for TFM."
That's
she was
all-
like, right. She heard right.
International flights in Las Vegas, it's everyone pretending to be baller when they're not.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know how many times I've been on
Gross.
international flights and The guy that's just decked out in all the designer stuff is taking his bag back to seat 45F.
Just coached all the way. Yeah.
But he looks the part.
Yep.
It's a lot of Persians getting a table and not really having many women around.
Oh yeah, I knew a Muslim guy that did a lot of cocaine, and he never drank because it was against
Right.
the
Right.
Quran.
But cocaine's fine.
But cocaine
Yeah,
was
yeah.
never mentioned, so he loved cocaine.
Kind
Love
of
a loophole.
Loopholed in there. I mean, he didn't know about cocaine. How could Muhammad have known about cocaine?
No, we were still years away. We
Yeah.
were about what 900 years away from discovering that treat.
Literally, yeah. Also, I mean, they never got rid. I don't think they were ever against uppers. Really, they liked like hookah and stuff. They smoked.
Oh yeah,
So
Hashish.
Hashish,
The assassins. Yeah, there's no
I
mention
loved
of
your
cocaine.
Assassins episode, by the way.
Thank you. Neither of his parents raised the kids and relied heavily on their nannies, most notably Elizabeth Everest, who Winston claimed to be his best friend for the first 20 years of his life before she passed away in 1895.
because she was much older than him.
Yeah.
Yeah, his best friend was his nanny. That is
Who's your best friend growing up? My nanny.
yeah, that is some rich kid shit right there. I enjoy that.
So just to set up this episode, we're going to talk about Winston Churchill up until he rises to power, until he finally becomes prime minister. We're not going to talk about World War II. That's kind of been covered enough. You know, watch a documentary if you want to see that.
Go watch The Darkest Hour or whatever.
This is the rise of the Lion. This is the Lion King. You know, you don't see what happens when Simba takes power.
The Lion King's not even as good once you get to adult Simba anyway.
Yeah. You see the cub Simba.
Yeah, you want Cub Simba.
But this is cub Churchill.
You got to see the Hamlet part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not the yeah, deviates greatly from Hamlet after a while.
I will say though, those World War II speeches that he gave, you could jerk off to those things.
Oh yeah.
Which is crazy because he had a huge stuttering problem.
Yeah. Kind of like the king too.
Yeah.
They had that in common.
Everybody was just but yeah, every
Could be
time
all the
he's like,
inbreeding.
when the new world comes to the rescue of the old, I'm just like, yeah, we're coming. Fucking go.
I don't think he was fond of FDR. Not to derail this.
I think he gets into that a little bit, maybe.
We cover a little of that at the end because
Okay.
it's just a funny story.
Okay.
But I don't really. Once he takes power and, you know, once World War II starts, we stop. This is where the episode stops. So this is all the preamble before that.
Okay.
Can I ask you
Because
this?
I think it's way more interesting.
Do you think if you were to compare Churchill to any American president that Teddy Roosevelt would be the best fit for Winston Churchill?
Yes, and they meet, and we'll get to that. And
okay.
they don't really care for each other.
A reserved Englishman and a boisterous American?
It's more just they're too similar. It's just two guys
Oh, yeah.
that are essentially the same person, not really getting down with each other. It's like you're looking in the mirror and you're not liking what you see.
Did they meet when they were both secretaries of the Navy? Because didn't they both hold that position?
No, so they met while Teddy was vice president.
Okay.
And there's
Which
a
wasn't
little bit of
that
an age
long.
gap.
Yeah.
Teddy at the time's like 42 and Churchill's 26.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe Teddy's threatened a little bit, you know.
Young buck coming up.
Yeah. Oh, no, he's got my energy.
Bully.
Winston definitely had mommy issues. He would constantly write to her during his childhood, craving her love and attention, which she often ignored.
Yeah, well, his best friend was his fake mom. That is the deepest. I mean, he only make it worse if he fucked her.
In his own words, she shone for me like an evening star. I loved her dearly, but from a distance. That's kind of sad.
That's a bummer. It's not great.
You always find out with these powerful families, especially like European aristocracy, there's not a lot of hands-on parenting that goes on in that world.
Which is deeply fucked because as someone with children are like, especially little boys. I don't have a little girl, so I don't know, but little boys are obsessed with their mothers.
Yeah.
Obsessed. Like my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old.
Well, they've been all up in that pussy longer than you have.
Time served.
Yeah.
No question. I'm just in and out. I got stuff to do.
Like I said, his mother was well respected in British high society and best friends with Queen Alexandria, although she allegedly had an affair with her husband, King Edward VII.
This is just what.
Do not let her around your man.
If your nobleman, don't let her around your nobleman.
Yeah, anybody that has a sir before their name.
So like you fuck athletes, you're a cleat chaser. You fuck actors, your star fucker. Like what? She's like a crown fucker or something. Like
Crown chaser.
crown chaser.
The
Yeah.
thing is, like, you can't really openly brag about that, so you're only doing it for yourself. It's like your own personal achievement that you are only getting to share with yourself. Really.
Yeah, yeah. And also, like, how does that make you feel powerful? He's just blasting a load in you and then leaving. He's just like, got it, yes.
You know what it is? That's the American in her. That's manifest destiny.
Yeah. She just, that is her being very American. She's just taking what she wants.
His father was habitually sick as long as Winston knew him. He had a nagging case of syphilis that he caught from one of the family's chambermaids
God damn.
and was out of his mind from the mercury-based medicine that was used to treat it.
Perfect. Treat poison with poison.
That's
Also,
a big stereotype, though, is like British aristocrats that are older just being just loose cannons.
I mean,
Banging their wives' chambermaids.
Yeah.
Prince Albert, right, was or not Prince Albert. Who was the guy who was suspected of being Jack the Ripper, the actual nobleman, and he had syphilis?
Oh, yeah.
Was it Prince Albert?
I don't know his name. I've been watching the Tudors lately, really getting on that.
Henry Tudor?
Henry VIII. Holy moly, that guy.
Yeah, Prince Albert Victor. So not Queen Victoria's son was he wasn't, but he was thought to be perhaps Jack the Ripper.
I like Henry Tudor, though, because he was kind of waiting in the shadows for his chance to strike
Oh, yeah.
before he took over.
The whole family.
They were just playing chess while everybody else was...
They didn't last long, though.
No.
You got to have boys. You got to have boys.
Which he thought was the chick's fault.
Yeah.
That was his dumb
They didn't know
fault.
better back then, yeah. He was really quick to take him to
Yeah.
the chopping block.
Yeah.
Randolph Churchill also suffered from multiple sclerosis and brain tumors. Winston went to boarding schools, but was not particularly the best academic in his youth.
All the goats aren't.
He had a speech impediment a majority of his life, struggling with the S and Z sounds.
So you have like a lisp?
He had a little bit of a lisp, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that why they called him the Bulldog? Because he was all jowly?
I think so. Despite being known for his gallivanting speeches, he was a noticeable stutterer. Winston ultimately went the military route at his father's request and got into the Royal Military College in Sandhurst after his third attempt.
How can we be sure his father wasn't just insanely yelling things? Like, I'll only love you if you kill a Zulu. And he's like, oh, go
I
fucking.
got to go to war.
Yeah.
No, he was. He was out of his mind.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. What if his father was just shouting crazy shit?
Sounds like he had daddy issues, too.
Yeah, who's the old guy in, like, The Watchmen? That's what I imagine.
Oh, the Jeremy Irons character, Ozymandias.
Yeah, I imagine that's what his dad was like.
Yeah. Just like scuttling about alone in a castle, plotting things that would never happen.
So he gains entry after his third attempt into the Royal Military College. Winston was accepted as a cadet in the cavalry in 1893. His father would pass a mere 2 years later in January of 1895. Just a month later, Winston became a second lieutenant in the 4th Queen's Own Hussars Regiment of the British Army. Hungry for action, Winston used his mother's political influence to post himself to an active war zone in Cuba in the fall of 1895.
The political influence she got by banging.
What else could she?
Like, my son really wants to go to Cuba. Can you make it happen?
She's just like Forrest Gump her son into a war in Cuba.
Sounds like Alexander the Great's mom.
Yeah. Boy, your mama sure does care about you fighting a war in Cuba, son. What were the British doing in Cuba?
Observing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
This was pre-Spanish-American War, 1895.
this is Spanish-American War. He and his, or I guess Cuban Revolution.
Yeah.
He and his friend Reggie Barnes initially went to observe, but came under fire for the very first time while tagging along with the Spanish troops against the Cuban revolutionists on his 21st birthday.
Oh, so they were with
the
the
first
Spanish.
time, yeah, the first time he ever undercame fire, it was his birthday.
So
fun.
well, happy birthday to you there, Win. Wait, so we were still in a proxy war
Yes.
with the British all the way into the Spanish-American War.
I guess they were on the Spanish side. I think the British at that time, in fact, I know the British at that time they as much as anyone were fighting to keep the status quo intact.
Right.
Right. Like the whole sick man of Europe thing with the Ottoman Empire, and like the Crimean War was fought completely to keep the status, not let Russia get too powerful. And I think they also didn't want to let Spain get too weak. I think they knew the United States was going to move in on anything Spain couldn't hold in the New World, and they didn't want Russia to move in on anything that the Ottomans couldn't hold. So, I mean, the British, and I think to a lesser extent the French, were scrambling to keep I think they wanted to prevent a world war, and I think they just wanted everything to stay as normal as it could.
Yeah. Keep the kings in power.
Yeah, and then, not everyone was happy with the arrangement.
But again, he was not with like British troops. They didn't send
Right.
like a whole regiment. It was just him and his boy going to observe and kind of take it in. But, sometimes you just want to get in on the action.
Yeah.
Pick up a rifle.
When you're young.
Mm-hmm.
And did he?
Yeah. Only spent a couple weeks in Cuba. He would then go on to serve the next year in Bombay and spend 19 months in India with the Hussars. He began reading the works of Plato, Edward Gibbon, Charles Darwin, Thomas Babington Macaulay, and the British political almanac, the Annual Regester. So that's how he got into politics. He wasn't religious, but he preferred Protestants over Catholics,
Well,
believing they were more reasonable.
I don't know if you get into it later. He actually had a ranking system. He's kind of a racist, and he had a ranking system. But when he got to the whites, he was not fond of Catholics.
yeah, I believe that. Also,
He didn't believe in Irish freedom.
yeah, I imagine if you are British, you might, and especially if you grew up in Dublin with your dad being in charge of maintaining that brutal rule, you might, from that angle, be like, these people are fucking crazy.
And they weren't even doing the bombings yet.
Yeah.
During his 20s, he declared himself a liberal in everything but name, as he could not get down with the Liberal Party's support for Irish home rule.
Okay, so he's like, there's this one deal breaker, and it's letting Ireland be free. The funniest part about that is that I'm just like, what resources were you even extracting from Ireland? I guess other than just
Human
capital.
labor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like other than just taxes, and maybe that's enough. Or maybe you just didn't want something that close to your backyard being influenced by anyone but you.
We know it wasn't potatoes, that's for sure.
No.
In 1897, he requested to join General Bindon Blood's campaign in northwest India against Mahman rebels. General Blood accepted under the condition Churchill went as a war journalist. This was the beginning of Winston's writing career.
Okay. So he was like J.D. Vance, kind of?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to write yourself a book. You got to write yourself a book to get into politics. That's how Obama became president.
That's how Bernie got big. That's how, everybody, really.
But Churchill wrote a lot. There's a lot of books under his name.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Ironically, there was also another American writer named Winston Churchill, who also published his first book in 1898.
Sick.
He went on to have 6 best-selling books of his own, but ultimately, he is the lesser author now.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
That's a tough
Well,
beat.
how many sales do you think he got? Or
'Cause
both of them got because they didn't
other
know which
Winston?
Churchill book
Yeah, they
were
got the
buying.
wrong one. They're like, fuck.
It's a tough beat for that guy, though.
Yeah.
Like, you're just forgotten to history. By
And also
another
back
Winston
then,
Churchill.
books don't have, big flashy covers.
No.
It's literally just a blank cover with a name and a title on it.
You couldn't rely on the art to get you a few extra sales.
No.
British Winston turned to writing often to deal with his recurring battles with depression that he referred to as his black dog. We have a black dog in studio. That's
Yeah, Bronchi Boys. Hey,
poetic.
handsome.
Although he's a happy buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
He's
go.
a happy boy.
This guy's a Tampa special.
I wish he was on camera. Get him up. Come on, boy. We need to get him on. Like you said, the only way to grow this channel is with
Dogs and chicks.
Dogs and
You
chicks.
need to have
There
a
he
lot
is.
more female guests on.
I
here.
know.
He popped up.
Maybe I'll show some more cleavage or something.
Yeah.
Get that gay audience. There we go. There
Done.
it is, Jack. We got boobs. Look at Jack.
Good nipple size.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I got them from my mom.
In 1898, he made his way to the Sudan, attached to General Kitchener for the Morning Post.
So now he's just full-time writer, basically, but in the military.
Yeah.
Sudan's pretty desertous, right?
Yeah. I think so.
It is. It's
Yeah.
Middle Eastern. It's believed this is where his fascination with Islam started. He was critical of it in his book about this tour, The River War, but grew to become more and more interested in Islamic culture as he got older.
I feel like.
But
Often-
not Catholics.
Yeah.
He would often dress in Arab garb in private.
What? He was religious cross-dressing?
He flirted with Islam so much that his family got concerned that he would convert.
That's really funny. It'd be funny if he had secretly converted. Like he did, was it like a deathbed conversion just to get into heaven?
Or whatever Islamic heaven is.
What drew him to Islam? Because I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East. I'm fascinated by Islam history myself, but I've never entertained the idea of becoming Muslim.
I don't know. He just read the Quran and liked it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I read the Book of Mormon once for pussy.
Did it work?
Like the screenplay?
No, the actual. I have a copy of the Book of Mormon. Yeah.
Did it work though?
No,
Well, you soaked, right? Did
Nope.
somebody jump on the bed?
no, just blowjobs.
Okay, that works.
She's-
I'd read the book.
The worst kind of religious person is not someone that's been consistently religious. It's someone that dropped out and then finds it again.
Oh yeah.
They're the ones that are. That's what I was dealing with.
A
That is-
reconvert?
Yeah, that is as bad. Like he is no zealot like a convert, but yeah, someone who comes back to it is.
That's
born
like when you
again.
look at all the Islamic extremism. That's always the case. They dropped off from it, and then they got really back into it again, and that's when everyone
So now
goes
they have
crazy.
to like overcompensate
Yeah.
for all the time they missed.
You do see that a lot with dudes here, like in America now. I feel like they like find Christianity in their late 20s, early 30s, and they just
They go hard.
go in.
But if you grow up in it and you consistently just stay it, then you're just normal about it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
After publishing The River War in 1899, he decided to leave the army, denouncing the actions of Kitchener's treatment of wounded enemies and the desecration of the tomb of Muhammad Ahmed, a Sudanese freedom fighter who died in 1885.
Oh, I was about to be like, what? They fucked up Muhammad's tomb?
So for a guy that hated so many people so much, he had a lot of empathy for Muslims
Mhm.
in North Africa.
A lot of the Middle East, too, yeah.
I bet you he was. I know Napoleon was really big on Muhammad. People used to give Muhammad more flowers and the early Islamic more flowers for conquering half the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Napoleon thought Muhammad was one of the best generals ever, and
He got a late start too, right? He didn't start that
Muhammad.
until he was like in his late 30s
he
or
was
40s.
He was not young.
He wasn't. Jesus was pretty young when he started his preachings.
Jesus was only 30 when he started. He only did it for 3 years.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Jesus was a conqueror.
Okay.
He took his 12 men, and they burned down towns. It's not reported in the Bible.
Kill him with kindness, actually.
It's where the saying comes from.
Yeah,
Yeah. People drop dead.
he did kill a tree.
Killed a couple things.
Did he?
Flipped
Killed
the
a tree.
table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, didn't he kill a couple people as a child? And then brought them back to life.
I forget what I did that
Just
episode.
for fun.
No, he had a temper.
He was well.
That's why they don't report on young Jesus a
there
lot.
was
He had
a- there's
temper.
Is
like
this
a
real?
Lost gospel of young Jesus, kind of like killing animals and stuff.
What?
And people like Joseph had to put out a lot of fires
Yeah.
that
You
Jesus
can't
started.
Give a toddler
Literally.
superpowers.
Yeah.
So all the peace and love stuff came from overcompensating, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He found it late in life.
That's why they don't
Really
really
leaned
start the
into it.
Jesus story until his 30s because he
There-
has to figure things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas
Well-
like a normal person's like, yeah, well, I didn't kill 5 people when I was a fucking toddler, so
Yeah.
I don't have to lean into it like you do.
I'm just an insurance salesman from Cedar Rapids.
In 1899, after the outbreak of the Second Boer War, Winston went down to South Africa for the Morning Post. While traveling, his train derailed from an artillery shell, and he was captured as a prisoner of war. So he was a South African Boer prisoner of war,
What year was this?
1899.
Okay.
In December, he was able to escape his captors by hobo hopping on freight trains, walking through the brush, and hiding in a mine before ultimately reaching Portuguese East Africa, which is now known as Mozambique.
I was gonna say, as I would imagine, you stood out a little bit as a pudgy white guy.
Yeah. Also, I feel like that skips the most important part of the escape, which is how do you get out of the cell or whatever he was in?
It was like a work camp.
He escaped through
it
like a
was school.
bathroom window, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a school.
Okay. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, the hardest part of escaping is the first part.
Yeah.
After that, it gets,
The
Yeah,
two.
if you see a white guy running in Sudan, he's probably up to no good.
he's escaping from something. Yeah.
No, South Africa.
Either way.
Oh, in South Africa. I
Yeah.
thought this was
Second
oh,
Boer
South
War.
Africa.
South
okay.
Africa.
So there were a good deal of whites around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In January, he rejoined the army as a lieutenant in the South African Light Horse Regiment.
So he was like, no more journalism. And I got to kill
I
these
got to get back,
motherfuckers
yeah.
that put me in jail.
During this time, he fought alongside his cousin, Charles Spencer Churchill, capturing Boer prisoners and writing about his exploits the entire time, which sold pretty well.
I'm assuming it's a Spencer from the Spencer family.
Charles Spencer Churchill. I guess, that's maybe they married into that.
Yeah.
Later in 1900, he returned to London and became a parliament member at just 25. He published a book about his time in South Africa, Ian Hamilton's March, and went on a book tour in North America. He met Mark Twain, President McKinley, and Vice President Teddy Roosevelt, who was eager at first to meet Churchill, but then came to dislike the Englishman.
So,
And this is before either of them hit their big offices.
Yeah.
but both of them had already, I guess, been in war, right? So Teddy Roosevelt would have already done the Rough Riders.
Yeah.
And Churchill had just finished the Boer War.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Teddy was like, oh, fellow soldier, exchange war stories with me.
And
then,
Churchill's been in Cuba.
yeah. I wonder, maybe that's why I didn't like him. Because Churchill was hanging with the Spaniards.
That might have been it.
And both of them have Nobel Peace Prizes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is ironic because both those guys loved war.
Oh, my God. Teddy Roosevelt was like, a great adventure. Let's go.
Oh, if you're loving those Teddy impressions.
I do, yeah. I like whenever he does voices that are, they're not great, but they get the job done.
I think Teddy had a little more of a high pitched tone though.
Yeah.
Because they do have some recordings of him.
Oh, do they really?
Everyone had a higher pitched voice back then.
Yeah.
What's up with that? I thought testosterone was higher.
It's all lies. They were low T.
I hit puberty when I was 4, so
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe that.
People don't know this, but Jack is 26
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. I genetics. I age like shit.
Yeah, but you would have thought they got along. I guess not. Just like I said, two similar characters, just maybe picking apart the pieces they don't like about themselves.
Yeah. You see your reflection in the mirror.
They
You
have
hear
the same body types, kind of.
Yeah. Hear yourself talk. You're just like, this guy sucks, dude. There's nothing good about him.
Churchill took his seat in the House of Commons in 1901, and by 1903 he was already at odds with his Conservative Party, as they believed he was drifting further and further to the left.
Oh, I thought you said he was a liberal. So he was.
No, he was a liberal in everything but name,
Okay.
because he just couldn't get down with the Irish. So he chose the Conservative Party.
literally just because he was like, fuck the Irish.
Yes.
That's like me with my friend group. I'm like the most liberal one, but I don't say anything because I'm like, I don't want to be ostracized. So,
Yeah. You're just like, yeah, great, sure.
Yeah.
Right. You're conservative, like adjacent.
Yeah.
So people just they're like, oh, Jack's, yeah, he's down with whatever we believe in.
I'm like,
Because
no,
of
I
who
just
he's
don't
running.
open my mouth. I never give my opinions.
It's the way to be, really.
That's smart. Just keep it close to the vest.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I appreciate that about where I grew up is people up there tend to not talk politics openly, and where it's a lot more common down here.
It really is.
I think that's a newer thing. That's just with the invention of social media.
That's true.
I think, yeah, I mean, remember there's a whole joke in Chappelle's show where you talk to white people about politics and they're like, whoa, let's not get too personal. I was telling you about fucking my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about my politics. That's the line I cannot cross. In 1904, he actually crossed party lines thanks to the Aliens Bill, which proposed curbing Jewish immigration into the country.
Well, you can get down with something, you know. So I'm sorry, he crossed party lines.
So the conservatives were like, we need to stop the Jewish people from coming into the country.
But I thought you said he was a conservative.
He was, so he crossed party lines.
Because he wanted the Jews.
Oh, he wanted the Jews.
He was
to
down
come.
with the Jews.
Oh, okay. It's hard to tell. He hates Catholics. He likes Muslims.
He's not a consistent man.
No.
That period, from what I understand, too, is kind of the rise of the Zionism movement.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
the Israel getting its own, Jews getting Israel back.
Jews were in the news back
Yeah.
then.
Also, this was right around the time that the UK had their Jewish prime minister.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's one of the most famous, effective prime ministers. He was Queen Victoria's prime minister, I think. I can't remember. I'm angry I can't remember the name because I know.
They have a Sikh guy now, don't they?
Yeah, he's Indian.
Oh, he's not Sikh though.
Jewish prime ministers of England. What is this guy's name? Oh, yeah, Disraeli. Benjamin Disraeli.
Oh, that's a pretty Jewish name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was prime minister under Queen Victoria, and he was like
What
good.
years?
What?
What years?
Let's see. Prime minister from 1874 until 1880.
So yeah, not around this time.
But what I'm saying though is
20 years later.
they had just had a very, very good prime minister who was Jewish. Like he might be on their Mount Rushmore of prime ministers. Like
That was their boom period. They were going pretty hard as far as what they were doing in the world.
Yeah.
In 1904, May 31st, he physically walks over the Parliament floor and sat as a member of the Liberal Party.
Like with pomp. Like one day was just like,
Yeah.
"Bro!"
So during this whole discussion, this whole debate whether or not to let Jewish people into their country, he's like, enough is enough. I am now a liberal.
Sick. And keep in mind, I think Catholicism had only been re-legalized in the UK for like 70 years at this point or something.
So he's still hanging on to his hatred for the Catholics.
Yeah.
But he loved the Jews.
Yes.
And Islam.
And
And
Islam.
Islam.
It's an interesting combination there.
Come on, man. What do you even like it? I don't understand your taste at all. Other than just, I don't even think he had a problem with Catholics. I think he's really hated the Irish.
I don't think he did have a problem with Catholics. I think it was just like, hey, the Irish need to know their place.
Yeah, the Irish are dirty, subhuman.
His grandfather was in charge of them, so it kind of makes sense that he's like, yeah, this is the way things are.
Yeah.
It wasn't a religion phobia. It was just good old-fashioned xenophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In 1908, he was appointed the president of the Board of Trade, where he brought about workplace reform that included an 8-hour workday, meal breaks, unheard of at that point, and minimum wage.
Wow, meal breaks. Eat at your desk like a good worker.
What desk?
Eat at your. Well, it's like what's his name had a desk? Bob Cratchit had a desk, right?
No, you're in the factory. There is no desk.
Eat at your fucking post.
He also married Clementine Hosier 5 months after meeting one another at a dinner party. She would then be his rock for the next 56 years. So, actually a good marriage.
That's a good wife name right there.
Clementine.
Yeah.
They don't
That's
make
the
them like they
American
used
in
to.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1910, Winston became Home Secretary, giving him control over police and prisons. He worked on prison reform, restricting the use of solitary confinement, provided education and library options, and abolished prison sentences for failures to pay fines. So he got rid of debtor prison.
So a very progressive fella.
I do enjoy that progressivism back then was just like obvious basic human rights.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't go to prison if you owe the government money.
Right. Especially like $10 or whatever the fuck.
Right.
And like don't
For not paying a ticket.
overuse solitary confinement. Don't just put even an Irishman in a black box for 8 months
Yeah.
because he was too Irish one day.
Yeah. Don't torture people.
Right.
In December of 1910, a group of anarchist Latvians opened fire on London police, killing 3 and injuring 2. A massive manhunt was launched under the supervision of Churchill. On New Year's Day, 1911, police received a tip that the murderers were hiding in a house on Sydney Street. Churchill and police arrived on the scene, and the standoff turned hot.
Let's go.
The Latvians fired over 400 rounds, with one piercing through Winston's hat, narrowly missing his head.
Like a top hat? I like that.
Yeah,
That's fun.
it's a good visual.
Yeah, it's a big target.
Just,
Why would
smoke coming out of it.
And that's annoying too because you as a shooter are kind of just trying to figure out where you think the head ends.
Where the head starts.
And yeah, I mean, shoot him in the face really to be safe, but
Yeah.
I guess if you want to go full dome, you aim it into the top hat. I also, man, anarchists, I need to do an episode on anarchists. I'm like planning on doing it.
Insufferable.
Those guys were A, insane, and B, assassinated so many fucking people.
World War One all kicked off because of an anarchist.
They killed McKinley, and the anarchists killed McKinley, made Roosevelt president. They killed King Umberto of Italy. I mean, the amount of assassinations at they are. I'm not trying to like ride for Antifa here, but whatever you think Antifa is, that's what the anarchists actually were. Like fucking lunatic, burn the world down, everything. And they're like anarchist conventions, which is an ironic juxtaposition, like an organized anarchist event.
Being Latvians, though, they were used to how Russian police respond. So they were kind of, I think, robbing a place. Police responded, and their initial reaction was just to start firing.
That's all you could do,
in Russia.
And also, if they're still thinking about Russian police,
not realizing that the police in England are kind of
they had rights,
bitches.
They had rights. Also, they had rights.
Well, they don't even carry guns anymore.
No.
Which is funny because which Nordic country is it? Like, I don't think maybe it's Sweden, but like
no, Switzerland has a shit ton of guns.
But there's a Nordic country where the cops have straight up like MP5s, like dope ass submachine guns in their cars.
The Swedish police are highly trained compared to the average American police officer.
Yeah,
they have to go through like 2 years of like intense schooling to become a cop in Sweden.
During the shootout, the building caught fire, and the Latvians ultimately burned to death. It happens, you know.
They died like they lived in anarchy.
Later in 1911, he was put in charge of the Navy. When Germany passed their 1912 naval law to increase production of warships, Churchill vowed that the British would answer every German boat with 2 of their own. I like that policy.
It's a good policy. You kind of need to do it.
Mm-hmm. And of course, 2 years later, the outbreak of World War I, and he oversaw the naval tactics for the First World War. He had a bit of a heat check in 1915 with his interest in the Middle Eastern theater.
Yeah.
He had to wear both failures in Constantinople and Gallipoli.
Gallipoli? Yeah. Gallipoli was a monstrous fuck up. Like, it's one of the most disastrous campaigns of the war.
Do you think he was in personal contact with T.E. Lawrence?
I wonder, actually. It's a good question.
Because both those guys seem to have a Middle East fetish.
Yeah, no joke.
He was ultimately demoted for these failures, and he resigned from all cabinet positions after the demotion and re-enlisted back in active duty.
Just in the war?
Yeah.
Such a Teddy Roosevelt move right there. I'm going to go from this high political office to I'm just going to go be like a lieutenant colonel.
He kept his parliament seat, but he's like, you know what? I need to get on the front lines. I need to actually do something in this war.
He definitely knew T. Lawrence. They met.
Okay.
So I've seen that's just my quick Google search.
Winston was attached to the 2nd Grenadier Guards on the Western Front. Churchill had a few near-death experiences, most notably when a large piece of shrapnel from a shell-in fell right between him and his cousin.
I like that in war, it's like the opposite of being a cop. Like, if you fuck up, you get sent to the desk. But in war, as a cop, but in war, it's like you fuck up at the desk, like front lines.
Yeah.
Like the Germans, like you fuck up somewhere like Eastern Front. Or like, I guess Churchill, he's like, I'm sorry, I fucked up. Boom. I'm just getting in a trench. It's where I belong.
Lloyd George became prime minister in 1917 and asked Winston to come back into the fold of things, appointing him Minister of Munitions and the Secretary of
That
State.
sounds like a badass job.
And the Secretary of State of War. So yeah, he was in charge of just like ammunition production.
What does that even entail other than like factories go burr? Like ammo factory goes burr.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure ammo factory always burring.
We need more ammo.
Burr, burr, burr.
After the war, Churchill was a mouthpiece for the League of Nations and opposed harsh measures to be taken against Germany.
He's like,
so him and Wilson were both against punishing Germany.
Completely.
Yeah, which was,
Germany.
as we know, was the right call.
Yeah.
I wish they would have listened to him.
No joke. I honestly, I guess not even worse, but like the funniest part about that, about like butt fucking Germany over for World War I, is that immediately created what do they call it? The Great Lie, which the Germans were like, oh, we lost because the Jews betrayed us.
It fed into it,
and
yeah.
that directly led to the Holocaust.
Which it was the French that really went hard on the trying to fuck Germany over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have some sympathy for the French
100%.
wanting to fuck Germany over as hard as possible.
Considering they burned down a lot of their countryside.
The whole war was in their country, basically. Not a lot of it was fought in Germany. It was all in France and Belgium.
Churchill was also outspoken against Vladimir Lenin and even proposed offering up troops to fight the Bolsheviks, but ultimately knew the country was tired of a war. Not to mention the Irish War of Independence was popping off, and so were the Kurds in Iraq.
Okay. Yeah, they had to draw those special lines
Mm-hmm.
in the Middle East. That is like twice that we've been like, could have beaten or maybe taken care of the communists in the Soviet Union, but we were just like, we've had enough war. We can't do any more war.
Yeah.
There's also this
got it.
We'll deal with them later.
yeah.
It'll be worse, but we'll deal with them later.
That's a tomorrow. That's my child's problem.
There's a story that people believe is true that when Churchill was drawing the lines for Jordan, that he sneezed, and that's kind of why it's like the way it is.
Didn't want to erase it. His eraser was.
It's not true though. Yeah,
That's one of my favorite countries on the planet.
Jordan's great.
Jordan is an awesome country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm very anti like royalty. It's just such a stupid concept to me
Yeah.
that it still exists. But like that's a king that puts his money where his mouth is. That's a lead by the front king that they got in
Is
Jordan.
it Abdullah?
Yeah, Abdullah II. And when he was a prince too, sorry to derail this.
No, I love this.
When he was a prince, he was really into Star Trek, and he basically had his dad, who was king at the time, get him into an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation because
Well,
he loves Star Trek so much.
It's a good connection because Churchill places Abdullah I in power.
Really?
In Jordan, yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. I mean, if you're gonna like, that's the trap though, right? Is that people see a good king and they're like, no, this can work.
Yeah.
Look, because when it's a good king, it's pretty good. I think. The problem is,
Most people in power aren't that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
and most kings aren't. Like, imagine how angry you get stomping your feet about a mediocre president.
Right.
Now, imagine that person can't be taken out of power, has no checks and balances.
Yep.
Tell me you still want a fucking king.
Yeah. And their kid likes to pull wings off of flies. Yeah.
In his free time, Churchill enjoyed polo and really got into painting in his 40s, kind of like
It was
George
George
Bush.
Bush, yeah.
Churchill would actually have exhibits of his work in London and Paris under different names. So he wouldn't go under his actual name.
I think let's hedge this a little bit. He definitely went under his actual name to get them in there.
Right, but
He
for
just
the public.
didn't put his name on it.
You see what happens when you support someone's artistic ambitions?
What a contrast
Yeah.
with another guy.
He became Secretary of State of the Colonies in 1921, the same year his mother died, after breaking her ankle in high heels and developing gangrene.
Yeah, going to suck some dick.
No, she was at like a ball or something, yeah. She
Yeah,
like
what he said.
broke her heel or something and broke her ankle on the staircase and then just, I guess, never recovered.
Anytime anybody does the whole fantasizing about living back in the day thing, you have to just think about the amount of things that would kill you back then that now are just an
A
inconvenience.
comical. She died of a broken ankle. A broken fucking ankle.
And then his daughter,
There was no time in history that was better than now. None.
Yeah.
None.
not to mention his daughter, died a few months later of sepsis.
So what? She
My dad almost died of sepsis like 2 weeks ago.
really?
Oh, yeah. I had to. I was
So
up
is
in
it a
the
better
hospital.
time?
Huh?
Is it a better
Yeah,
time?
because he would have died.
Yeah, it is a better time in the sense that he definitely would have died even 40 years ago. Yeah.
It's like, it's so funny to me. It's like, but houses were more affordable. It's like, great. If you trip and fall in that house and cut yourself on a nail in that shitty house that was partly more affordable because it was worse, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So maybe just fucking enjoy the present.
No life alerts back then.
Churchill was a player in shaping the Middle East, handpicking his own guys in Jordan and Iraq, and working out Jewish migration into Palestine.
So we could also blame Churchill for the current situation going on.
In
We
Gaza,
can
yeah.
blame him, for everything, really. We could blame him for the Gaza war, the Iraq war.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been in Iraq if it wasn't for Winston Churchill. That man had a direct influence on your life.
That's some very, what's it called? The butterfly effect shit
Yeah.
right there. Yeah. Iraq is cool too. And obviously when I was there, it was a little more hectic. Can I go on a little rant here?
Yeah. You have the floor.
I haven't become necessarily fascinated with Islam, but more Arab culture, which isn't just Islam.
Right.
But
In fact, it's not, because a lot of Islamic.
a lot of Arabs are Christians.
Yeah,
and
that,
Jews.
but also there's a lot of history before Islam
Oh yes,
that they try to eradicate.
right.
When ISIS, when they go into a country in Syria and stuff, they try to blow shit up that had anything that happened before
Yeah.
Muhammad.
They are archaeologists' worst nightmare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sumerian, Assyrian, anything.
I've been to oh jeez,
Babylon, right?
I've been to Babylon.
Yeah, I think you told us that. That's fucking sick.
This is my rant about Arabs because I've been kind of all over the Arab world. My favorite kind of Arabs are Iraqis and Jordanians and a good chunk of Egyptians.
Yeah.
Those are the best Arabs, right? They're like blue collar Arabs. They're cool. They're down to party.
Yeah.
They're relatively,
Normal.
moderate, liberal. Yeah.
So is that like the same as like, let's use Europe as an example to not sound racist, but like you can sort of like ethnically, geographically group Europe as certain, like in a broad
They're like
cultural
the
sense.
Slavs.
That's what I was gonna say. You can be like Eastern Europeans, and then you've got West Northern, which is like Germany, England, and Scandinavian. Scandinavian's kind of its own thing, I guess. And then you've got like the Romance Europeans, which is like
Yeah.
Italy, France, Spain. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
all kind of distinctive in their.
They're good people. I like them. I've always had great experiences and great memories. But the ones that were always assholes to me are the ones coming from Saudi Arabia. The worst thing you can do is let those guys get their hands on that oil. They become pricks. They're just assholes. Saudis, Kuwaitis are the laziest pieces of shit I've ever been around.
You told me that Kuwaitis were your least favorite.
They're
ones.
just and they have a lot of shared history with Iraq, but they are two different countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny that Kuwaitis are just like. I mean, and we
They're
had to,
lazy as shit.
well, we had to come unconquer their country for them.
Yeah, just they're fat. They're fatter than we are. They are. There's more McDonald's in Kuwait than there is in frickin' Alabama.
God, that's funny.
Churchill actually loses his election in 1922 and spends the next 6 months near Caen, writing and painting.
In where?
Caen.
Oh, France.
Yeah.
Okay.
He then flipped back to the Conservative Party and regained a position in 1924, leading the country's finances despite having no background or education in doing so.
Real flip-flopper. I mean, how many people truly currently on congressional committees have any background in what the fuck they're talking about? Like, I understand, like, there's probably certain judiciary committees that are filled with lawyers and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but Congress has a high percentage of lawyers.
Right. But, like, how many people on, like, a national security committee?
Oh,
Or
well, a lot of
something.
the times I had a buddy that was on one of those defense committees, and it's
Yeah.
like, you were a lieutenant in the military at one point. We'll just have you go do big level national security stuff.
Which is truly almost like taking, like, a second unit director and making him the head of a studio.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But, like, immediately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just grab a second unit director.
You did one movie? You're qualified.
You're in charge of Warner Brothers now.
Yeah.
In 1925, he restored the gold standard. And in 1927, he goes to Rome and enjoys his meeting with one Mussolini,
Well, yeah, who else are you going to meet in Rome?
connecting over their hatred of Leninism.
Yeah.
There's some people that say World War II could have easily been two different sides.
Churchill gets removed from office again in 1929 and falls back into depression. He copes by writing and drinking a lot more.
This guy just can't take an L. Are we going to talk about his drinking schedule?
Do you know it?
Yeah, I'll read it to you. Let me find it real quick. It went
This is like a Hunter Thompson type of thing.
It is.
Yeah.
I went viral a while back. I'll look it up real quick.
Well, he also has another bad habit. He loses a lot in the stock market and deals with it by chewing 8 to 9 cigars a day, rarely taking a puff,
That's
and-
foul.
yeah. So he's just chewing on the cigar the
He
whole
had
time.
an
it's
oral
lit.
fixation like his
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah. 8 to 9 cigars a day, though. And he would keep up to 2,400 cigars on his person at all times.
That was Mark Twain was like that.
So
Mark
was-
Twain was always had a stogie.
So
in
was
his mouth.
Grant, apparently.
My
Oh
dad
yeah,
did
that's
it.
what killed him.
My dad,
yeah, literally.
My dad would chew cigars. He never actually smoked them. Very
Really?
Churchill-esque.
That's weird.
Not really.
It looks distinguished, that's for sure.
It does look distinguished. Yeah. Okay. So here is Churchill's. Come on, man. I don't want to do this.
It's okay.
No. Here we go. 7:30. Wake up. Remain in bed. Eat breakfast. This is daily regimen. I believe once he was prime minister, but you got to imagine this did not start in 1940. No. Wake up. Remain in bed. Eat breakfast. Read newspapers. Work. Glass of whiskey and soda. 11 a.m. Out of bed. Stroll around garden. Whiskey and soda. 1 o'clock. Multi-course lunch. Entire pint of champagne. An imperial pint of champagne. 2:30. Work from study. Glass of cognac. What's 1700? Is that
5.
5? Okay. Hour and a half nap / siesta, which he
Gotta get a little nap in.
a habit he acquired in Cuba.
Rally.
So he started doing that from his time in Cuba. Not
Did the siesta thing come? Is that unique to the Americas, or was
No,
that
that's
a
Spanish. Yeah.
cultural thing? Okay.
6:30. Wake up, bath, dress for dinner. 8 o'clock. Lengthy dinner with guests. Another imperial pint of
A lot
champagne.
of food, though. He's not drinking on an empty stomach.
Yeah. Midnight.
That's what kills people.
Yeah.
Midnight, work and study, more cognac, just TBD amount of cognac. Goes to bed between 1 and 3 in the morning.
God, that's Hunter Thompson's schedule minus the cocaine.
Which we don't know that he wasn't also
Right.
doing.
Well,
So-
he's chewing 9 cigars.
So he was getting Britain through World War II just loaded.
Which the other day they were talking on Drinking Bros. They were saying like, Kamala Harris apparently has a drink every day when she wakes up, and I almost want to chime in and be like, buddy, Winston Churchill was getting after it
Yeah.
from the moment he woke up.
And you know, a lot of people don't realize this too. Obama was a huge cigarette smoker.
Oh yeah,
He played that he quit going into his presidency. Nobody quits when they're about to go into that job.
you can't give that up.
No, we need you smoking. That's what you're used to. It'll keep you sane.
Yeah.
You know who else was a big cigarette smoker?
Who?
Laura Bush.
Really?
And everybody in certain circles knew Laura liked her heaters.
Hell yeah. Good for her.
Yeah.
During this time, he also wrote a couple books and a few opposition pieces against one, Gandhi. Hated Gandhi.
I could see
Fucking
that.
despised Gandhi.
I could see that. I bet you he didn't like Hindus. Just randomly he maybe
No,
to
he
that-
ju-
Catholics,
thought-
Hindus.
yeah,
He thought Gandhi was a hypocrite.
probably
A lot
true.
of people agree.
probably true.
He's like, you're cosplaying as this poor man.
Yeah, he came from a certain
Royalty.
family and,
Yeah.
and he was a lawyer.
He adopted the whole robe shit. I mean, yeah, at one point, and Gandhi, I think it went viral a while back. Just and it does every once in a while, like all the fucked up shit he wrote about black people when he was living in South Africa and stuff like that.
Wasn't fond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, people are jerks.
Yeah.
People have antiquated views. It happens.
Churchill regains a parliament seat in 1931, but is given no real position of power. Churchill then goes on another North American tour to try and recoup some of his financial losses from the Wall Street crash. With his new book, during this tour, he's hit by a car and dragged while crossing Fifth Avenue in New York.
Dragged?
Right.
How long is he dragged?
Quite a bit, but it's because he's not used to the way American cars go, right?
Oh,
He
yeah.
thought he looked the wrong way.
He looked the wrong way.
I bet in the UK, cops are used to scooping up
Yeah.
Americans out there who weren't ready.
Well, not just Americans. Everyone drives on the right side of the road.
Australia and the UK are the only countries I can think of that do the left side.
Does New Zealand?
Oh, probably them too.
Yeah. But that's like it.
Yeah.
It's everyone else drives on the right side of the road.
Yeah.
Churchill sustained severe bruising and a sprained shoulder, but played down the severity of his injuries, writing that he couldn't understand why he was not broken like an eggshell, or squashed like a gooseberry.
Or just died like his mom did of a broken ankle. Like, I love that his mom gets a broken ankle and dies. He gets hit by a car
He's fine.
and dragged through what I assume still a fair amount of horse shit in the streets of New York.
Oh, another thing, like, people don't understand how gross cities were back then.
Oh, God. Up until the 90s.
Oh, yeah. People didn't even bathe, like, maybe once a week.
Yeah. I remember I was saying about this one thing I read about, like, just apartments in New York. I assume most places were the same way. But you, for the longest time, a lot of rentals, the cheaper rentals, now you would see it, they'll dress it up as like a walk-up or something like that, you know what I mean? But a lot back in the day, the ones, they would have fun names for it, like a cold water loft or something like that. It's just like a lot of apartments, no hot water.
Yeah.
So enjoy.
Have fun, immigrant.
Took full responsibility for the accident, informing the police that the driver was innocent, securing his release.
And man of integrity.
Yep.
And ever the optimist went to the doctor, and because it was prohibition, got himself a little script for alcohol.
Hell yeah. How did he even survive in this country?
Yeah, the withdrawals alone sounds like the withdrawals alone would have killed him.
Maybe that's why he got hit by a car.
Yeah.
I think
wasn't thinking
all
straight.
On purpose. He's like, I would rather get hit by a car than stay sober. And God intervened.
In 1932, Churchill visits Munich. A proposed meeting with Hitler was arranged, but Adolf ultimately declined, and Winston collapsed a few days later. So they were going to meet. Winston was kind of talking to Hitler's boy, and I guess Hitler was just like, why the fuck do I want to meet Winston Churchill?
Random fucking guy?
Some parliament member?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
I never heard of this guy.
Right. He big-timed him. Winston Churchill got big-timed by Hitler.
God damn.
Like sitting on a bench behind Aaron Rodgers.
Do you think he was jealous that Winston got his paintings in a museum
Probably.
or in a gallery?
Although he didn't know that because Winston never put his name on it.
True.
But Winston collapsed a few days later when an ulcer started to hemorrhage. He was taken back to London in a nursing home and remained there for a good portion of the year. Hitler comes to power in 1933, and Churchill is pretty vocally against him in British radio.
That's the thing about Churchill is from the beginning he knew Hitler was bad news. A lot of other people, even in the United States, were like, oh, well, wait and see what he does over there. That Hitler guy.
Right.
Churchill knew the guy was bad news from the beginning.
Not only is Churchill in Parliament, he is writing newspaper columns. He's on radio. He's just screaming like, dude, fuck this guy.
There was a New York Times headline about Hitler from 1933 that came out the other day.
Oh, they had open members of the Nazi Party in the United States. They filled up Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yeah. But God damn it, what was it? It was just something like along the lines of like Hitler not seeking to take dictatorship or something like that. Like,
right.
It was...
Sounds like something a dictator would say.
Right. He also opposed Mussolini's invasion of Ethiopia, feared communism in the Spanish Civil War, and just got to writing and publishing all of his thoughts on all the geopolitical chess moves moving, or pieces moving. 1937, Neville Chamberlain becomes prime minister.
Bitch.
And in 1938, signed the Munich Agreement.
So I actually don't know if we've spoken about this on the show before, but Jack, I think you're a perfect person to pick the brain of. There are some people, and I haven't read into it, so I just heard this theory and was
Chamberlain's the James Buchanan of British history.
So that's how he's portrayed, absolutely, unquestionably.
He should.
And maybe he should. I just heard a theory, and I didn't look into it, so I just think it's an interesting thought experiment. I'm not married to it at all, but that essentially Chamberlain knew that the Germans were ready for war, but the British weren't, and his tactics of appeasement were specifically
buying time.
Okay, that's a sound theory.
I would have to actually look into it, but I was like, if that's true,
Mm-hmm.
He was doing his best.
yeah, because France was ready for war, and France gets a bad rap.
Yes, they do. No, go.
They had some of the best tanks in the world at the time. The Char was goddamn impregnable. The Maginot Line gets all the love, but like Their tanks were excellent. They had a large standing army. Like, they knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Right? They were Gondor, sitting next to Mordor. They were the only ones with any sort of fucking realization of what they were sitting next to. But they essentially, honestly, the more I think about the Battle of France, the invasion of France, the more I just think they just got caught with a left hook. You know what I mean?
They blitzkrieg through France the same way they did into Poland, and once you penetrate that line, you're fucked.
Once there's, and that's in any war. Once there's a breakthrough, it's over.
Yeah,
it's over. Once the line integrity is gone,
it's not like they saw the Germans and threw their hands up. They put up a fight, but the Germans, that freaking pointy blitzkrieg, go by the arrow method.
Yeah.
That shit worked.
Yeah, and it was a level of maybe mechanization they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
But their equipment was excellent.
Yeah.
And they had a large army, and the Maginot Line was great. And actually, what was one of the points of the Maginot Line was so that they were like, why wouldn't they build it across Belgium too? And there was sort of they had like a deal with Belgium, and Belgium didn't want to like feel like they were going to be left out in the cold. So the Maginot Line, part of the functionality of it was it didn't have to be manned by many people, so that they could free up more troops to man the open area. You know what I mean? Like, and I think they really just got they just got something they weren't expecting. Right? It was a surprise left, hit them right in the perfect spot, out cold.
Yeah.
But they get a bad rap on their actual quality of military.
We wouldn't have been successful in retaking France either if it wasn't for the French resistance.
Yeah.
Like if
actually today I believe is the anniversary of the liberation of Paris, the 80th anniversary.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not when you guys are listening to this, but when we are recording it.
I know a guy who's in Paris right now competing in the Paralympics.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Jason Trubansky.
Do we dominate those?
I would imagine, right? Like if our able-bodied Olympians are kicking ass, our Paralympians are probably also.
Think.
Yeah.
What if there was just a random nation that dominates, like Chile?
Yeah, like they're just like they put all their investment into their Paralympians.
I mean, I could also see China just like cutting the limbs off of great athletes just to rack up some gold medals in the Paralympics too. Like you're not good enough to get into the Olympics.
Yeah.
So you lose a leg.
Or maybe like a South Korean trying to get out of mandatory military service disables himself.
I noticed that North Korea wasn't there because evidently they don't have handicapped people.
Not for long.
Yeah.
No.
Sweden, their contingent was pretty small too because they practiced eugenics until the 70s, and they wiped out a sizable portion of their population that were.
Well, you got to think.
There was an article not that long ago about Iceland where it's like how Iceland solved Down syndrome.
Cured Down syndrome.
Yeah, cured Down. No, you mean you did eugenics? You you forced sterilize people.
Well, they didn't force sterilize it, but any time they found out the Down syndrome stuff, just
aborted the kid.
Yeah,
which I think you don't find out that early. I would have to. I'll look that up.
I don't know. Let's move on.
I want to talk about abortion.
The Munich Agreement allowed Hitler to annex the Sudetenland. Churchill called this a total embarrassment and defeat, and used it as a platform to create a national coalition and gain popularity around the country. He's on Chamberlain's kind of cabinet, but is very outspoken against Chamberlain. In 1939, when Britain finally declares war on Germany, Chamberlain appoints Churchill on his war cabinet. After the Allies prevented the German occupation of Norway, a vote of no confidence came about in Chamberlain. German forces then invaded Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. Pressure continues from the Labour Party to get Neville the fuck out, and he finally resigns, but rides for Churchill to take his place, which they're actually okay with.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I know British politics are different than American politics. Liberal Party there and the Conservative Party there doesn't necessarily translate 100% into our Republican and Democrat parties, but what would the Labor Party be closer to in the American political system?
I think Labor's Democrat.
They're Democrat. Okay,
Yeah.
well that makes sense.
Union, Labor,
Tory is conservative.
But they have they have a lot more parties than we do.
And also it's just a different like I was saying this to someone the other day. It was like, oh, yeah, you talk about like conservatives winning elections in Europe. These are people who will never get rid of nationalized health care, will never legalize guns. Like, there's just so many things where it's like you're basically only socially conservative at that point because you can't couldn't even begin to privatize like healthcare or something like that. That people would never stand for it. So which is like private or public, making anything public is anti-conservative.
Yeah.
So all you are at that point is like socially conservative. Pretty much. I don't know what else you'd be. Oh, and economically.
Comes down to Churchill and Lord Halifax, who didn't really seem super enthused to rise to the occasion anyway. So by default, Churchill just kind of takes over as prime minister. He gets elected.
It's a happy little accident.
Yeah. I think also, is this a situation, as Jack was saying earlier, we like to use college football analogies. Is this a sort of situation where you just hire an asshole because you know you're about to get sanctions? You know what I mean? You don't want to make a good hire yet.
No.
You're just leaving it to...
It's not that. It's just he's really the only guy that wants the job. Everybody else is like, I don't know if I want to run the country. Yeah.
Everyone else is a bitch.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm afraid to run the country.
And Churchill was like, I was kind of made for this.
All right. Sometimes...
So he steps up. That's what it is.
Sometimes people with irrational confidence are mostly awful.
That's why America does so good at things. We're irrationally confident people.
And this is probably why Churchill's one of the goats in England.
He's got that. He's got
that American in him.
Yeah.
On May 10th, 1940, Winston Churchill, with the Germans at the gates and in the midst of war, becomes Prime Minister of the UK. And that's where the story ends for us here. I mean, obviously.
Does he win?
He does win. Yeah.
Whew.
But I mean, can I?
Yeah, if you want to like kind of
after he literally got
Prime Minister.
Britain out of one of the worst fucking situations they've ever been in, and he saw them through to the end of the war, they were quick to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he's only a wartime consigliere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not a peacetime type of guy. I wonder if they were worried about him being a little horny to go after the Soviets.
He was.
Again, could have saved us a lot of troubles.
Well, I guess not really. I mean, we could beat him without.
It ended up turning out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say without firing a shot, but we could probably count Vietnam and Korea and Afghanistan. And
like I said, we're not going to cover any of the things he does in World War II, except I got a little story that's entertaining enough to kind of lead us out here. So while Churchill visited the U.S. and went to the White House to hang out with FDR, have a couple meetings, he had several naked incidents. He loved to walk around naked.
Okay.
On one occasion, he supposedly encountered the ghost of Abraham Lincoln while in his birthday suit.
Love that.
Abe Lincoln was in the UK?
No,
the
White
House.
At the White House.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is known, that is a thing. Like, it is said that Abe Lincoln haunts
they say
the
that
White
bedroom's
House.
haunted as
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. So apparently, while he was walking around in his birthday suit, he came across the ghost of Abe Lincoln in the White House. They stared at each other for some time before Lincoln politely dipped his cap and walked away.
You got a nice cock there.
President Franklin Roosevelt also saw him naked along with several White House staff members during his 24-day visit in 1941. Churchill had just taken his bath and was pacing around nude when Roosevelt came in. The president quickly tried to leave, but Churchill told him not to, declaring that he clearly had nothing to hide to his closest ally.
Ha!
So that is the story of the rise of the lion, the last lion, the American lion, whatever you want to call him.
I like calling him the American. Let's take credit.
I want to take credit for Churchill. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you guys learn today?
You actually reminded me of that Lincoln story. I forgot that Churchill saw Lincoln's ghost, but I didn't realize that Churchill saw combat. Actually, I did not know
a lot
that.
of combat.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Re-entered combat.
Yeah, I know.
He had a cushy position. He's like, you know what? I need to get back into war.
I didn't know that he was such a nudist.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he didn't only like. I also didn't realize he religiously cross-dressed, as I said.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I want to change my answer. I didn't know that he had such a fascination with Islam.
Flirted with Islam.
Yeah.
Found out his mom was a whore.
Yeah.
He found out?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, we found out. Yeah, I didn't know his mom was a dirty, dirty slut.
A lot of things. Like his childhood, his rise to power is pretty interesting, honestly. More interesting than the stuff that happened in World War II. Obviously not as important, but softcore history, man.
Yeah. I know he made his, fun fact about Churchill, he made his famous Iron Curtain speech in Missouri.
Oh, really?
In some little town in Missouri that I forget the name of. It starts with a W. But
stuttering his little dick off.
Yeah. He they mark it to this day. Like it's like a, but yeah, he made his Iron Curtain speech in Missouri. I think it was because Truman was president and they were there because of that, if I recall correctly.
Who is today's Hitler?
Hitler?
I guess anybody but Hitler.
Who was today's Hitler?
It sounded like the only real negative thing that influenced his life was his crazy father.
No, his mom, dude. His mom sucks.
Well, I can't really blame her, though, too, because her husband's just fucking the chambermaid.
I'm talking about
getting
not
syphilis.
Raising her children in any meaningful way.
But that was the norm back then.
I guess still. Your son's like, please, mommy. Please.
His dad had mercury poison on his brain and just yelling to go into combat. That's
Kill a Hindu. Papa, would you like to take a walk in the garden? Kill me a Hindu. And then it's just, all right.
We could be ballsy and say that Gandhi.
Yeah, I was going to say in Churchill's mind, it's probably Gandhi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Churchill's like, God, what a dick.
Man. I also learned that Teddy did. I would have thought Teddy and him would have been pals.
But you made a good point. Sometimes when people are too similar, it's like when parents and children butt heads. Sometimes you're butting heads with yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Jack, it's always a pleasure having you on. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/softcorehistory, where you get 2 additional episodes every week, and you have a evergreen back catalog of 3 years of content at this point.
So much. It would
It's
take
insane.
you forever to get through. $5.
Not with the time I spend in the pool. I'm getting through a lot of episodes.
So with that, make sure to leave a review, 5 stars, please, and thank you. Leave a review on Apple if you can. It helps us raise up the charts. It doesn't really matter how many listens we get. It's all about the reviews.
Yes, it is. I was actually just looking at the top comedy one today. We're on history, not comedy. I was looking at the top comedy one today, and number 5 had 1 episode.
Sick.
And 80 reviews, but I think it had gotten those 80
yeah,
something
they
reviews.
manipulated the algorithm.
Yeah.
And then on Spotify, for some reason, I can't change it. I think we're sports still because we have our
it's the feed from our old college football
podcast, show.
Yeah.
Unofficial visit. So
I'll listen to that when I get through all the softcore episodes.
it's gone.
Well, if you like college football talk from 6 years ago.
It's also gone. So
okay.
Anyway, for Rob Fox and Jack Mandaville, I'm Dan Regester, and you just got sauce served.